YouTube. How's everyone doing? Jags to Riches, James Peters, thank you all so much for your time. We are officially about to begin the NBA playoffs, just hours away at this point. Play-in game is officially in the books after last night's games. I'll be honest, guys, this is technically like the third, maybe even fourth time I'm actually filming this. Don't believe me? Both sides of it, guys. So what I'm hearing from the Nets, obviously a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of people out there that think the Nets are going to actually win this series. We want Boston. As far as what I'm reading for Robin, and understand these are all conflicting, you know what I mean? There are contradictions all over. Rob, I'm hearing that it's looking like because of how the schedule is set up, and what I mean by as far as just the Nets series, the issue I've been having is I would go into just a full breakdown and at the end of it still feel like I missed something, and those videos were still damn 20 minutes long. So I just kept putting it off. So with everything, and then I kind of said, we'll just wait till the play-in game is over and then we'll actually go through it. So honestly, guys, today I'm going to review. This is going to be based on the 7th-seeded Brooklyn Nets and the number 2 Boston Celtics. We're going to talk about the season, each of their individual seasons briefly. We're going to talk about their head-to-head matchups. We'll talk about the key players. We'll talk about some of, my thoughts on the actual series itself, and then just some of the key storylines, Rob Williams, Ben Simmons, for example. But before we begin, I do want to say a very special thank you to Mr. Solo, Poppy Solo. He huge Brooklyn Nets fan. He joined me and Bobby yesterday on Celtics Corner. It was an absolute blast. He's got a pretty big following on TikTok and goes hard for his Nets there. So I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but that young man impressed me a lot, man. How he conducted himself, had facts to back up every one of his arguments, even though they were wrong, obviously. But he's a Nets fan, and the New Yorkers tend to be a little delusional. But no, I was very impressed with that young man. Shout out to you, Solo. Go show him some love, follow him. Look forward to having him back on the show. And of course, to my man Bobby, he was on fire yesterday. It was a special occasion because it was literally, I think, I'm working on clipping almost everything from that episode because it's Bobby complimenting the Celtics like you have never seen before, talking shit about Kyrie, to LeBron. I mean, he was just going hard.
When the 7th seed easily beats the 2 seed, you'll see exactly what I mean.
So you know what's funny?
I feel like LeBron has said that in the past, right, Bobby?
LeBron has said that, but I didn't know LeBron, went to play with Brooklyn. I didn't know that happened. Kevin Durant, who needed to go team up with Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson to finally win something. That's the players talking about. Kyrie Irving, who hasn't won a damn thing since he didn't play with LeBron James. So what I'm hearing
These are exact reasons why it's going to be embarrassing when we run through you guys, because we're so bad, right?
So wait. Since when is Nets and 6 running through a team? I'm confused here.
Hold on, I got to be honest to my Celtics fans in the chat. Bobby talking shit about Kyrie Irving. Isn't that a spectacular day, right?
What I am doing is just explaining what I see.
Bobby, I love it. I thought I was coming into a battle zone, me versus you and Solo. I didn't know I had my boy with me. Let's go.
What I will say is,
was going into it expecting again, this is going to be a frustrating episode because it's going to be me versus a diehard Nets fan and Bobby. But it was not that. I got to just kind of sit back and watch Bobby just go. Phenomenal job, Bobby. But again, guys, let's get into this playoff series next. Official, here it is. After last night's play-in games, the Atlanta Hawks, man, an ice trade with the 107-101 win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was behind Trae Young's 38 points, and it's unfortunate because the Cavs finally got Jared Allen back. He played 35 minutes too. He did have 11 points, only had 3 rebounds, but again, shout out to the Atlanta Hawks. They've, back-to-back games fighting to get themselves, into there after blowing out the Hornets and then beating the Cavs. So good shot. And then for the Los Angeles Clippers, just getting very unfortunate news. You're talking just hours before the actual playing game starts. You see Paul George go into health and safety protocol after he's just recently returned and been on fire. So, it's disappointing, but Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris both stepped up. They had 27 apiece for the Clippers, who ended up losing 101 to 105 behind Brandon Ingram's 30-point performance. So setting up the playoffs here, guys. But again, we're only here for one matchup, and that is the number 2 seeded Boston Celtics versus the number 7 seeded Brooklyn Nets. Jason Tatum versus Kevin Durant. Woo-wee. So looking at their seasons, each respective season, briefly, like I said, Boston Celtics finished with the number 2 seed, 51 wins, 31 losses. This was, since Tatum's rookie year, their first 50-win season. In fact, I mentioned before, the third time in the last 12 years it's been a 50-win season. The other 2, they went to the ECF. It was a historic midseason turnaround. Literally, it was, the greatest single season turnaround for a team ever. They were 17-19 coming into 2022. And since then, they're like 33-11. This team was below 500 at the midpoint. Got healthy in January and have not looked back ever since. They have been absolutely sensational. Now, Brooklyn, number 7 seed, 44 wins, 38 losses. It's been, quite the opposite for them. This has been a team that was favored, heavily favored coming into the year. The big 3 of KD, Kyrie, Harden, a lot of hype. Even when shit was hitting the fan for them, they were still favored. You know what I mean? So that tells you anything. Start off hot, doing very well, and then unfortunately injuries hit them. In fact, Kevin Durant missed basically, I believe, the end of January and the entire month of February. So and that was, you'll hear a lot of people reference that point where, that really bad stretch of play from the Nets. In fact, I actually did a video earlier in the season, it was titled "What's Wrong with the Brooklyn Nets?" So what is going on with the Brooklyn Nets? Currently sitting at a record of 29 wins, 24 losses, good enough for the 7th seed in the East. This team is on an 8-game losing streak. Since returning, he's played in 12 total games, and they are 4-8 since he has returned. Now, the big 3 of KD, Harden, and Kyrie only played 3 total games together, in which they were actually 2-1 before KD actually got injured. I think it was copyrighted. I took it down. But, and even in that video, I highlighted the fact that that was during February when Kevin Durant was gone. They lost 11 straight. They lost in a 20-game stretch. They were 3-17. That was right when Kyrie was being reintegrated. He was still only part-time, and James Harden was having his issues. And obviously that was just prior to the trade. Trade deadline, blockbuster deal for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond for James Harden. Humongous trade for both sides. Obviously, Philly gets Harden. They lose Simmons, who hadn't played for them in a year. Losing Curry definitely hurts, and then giving up Drummond. And as far as for Brooklyn, even though he hasn't played, and we'll get to him, they do get perennial all-star, all-NBA, one of the best defenders in the game, and a young Ben Simmons, and then Seth Curry. He's been shooting damn near 47% from 3 since he's joined that team, 42% on the year, 15 3-3, and then Drummond, a 12-10 guy. Say what you want about him defensively or, his hustle or whatnot, but still a rebounder. It's like a 4-time rebounding champ. So as far as their head-to-head matchups, they actually played 4 total times. And again, I addressed this when it came to the ridiculous arguments that I'm hearing from both sides, both fans. The Brooklyn fans, I told you, it was they were saying, well, we gentlemen sweeped y'all last year, 5-1. It's like, geez. Yes, guys, you did. You also beat a team that was Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Romeo Langford, Tristan Thompson. Stop it. Like Evan Fournier with Peyton Pritchard and Jabari Parker, the top 2 minutes off the bench. Like, this is not that team by any stretch of the imagination. And then, again, a lot of the Celtics fans are pointing to the fact that we beat them 3-1 on the year, 3 out of the 4 games. In fact, Brooklyn won that first meeting, so we beat them 3 straight. Let's take a closer look at some of those actual games, though. see if the devil in the details. So first meeting was the 24th of November. The Boston Celtics would lose 123-104. No Kyrie. It was in Brooklyn. No Rob Williams. And it was actually a balanced effort for Brooklyn. KD only had 21 points. And on the Celtics side, we were kind of cold. Marcus Smart was the leading scorer, I believe, at 20 points. But again, that was at the end of November, which was in the first half of the season when the Celtics were struggling. In fact, that was getting ready to start December, which was a really brutal month, where they just had such a difficult schedule. And I think they went like 5-10 or 6-9. It was a tough stretch of ball. So the second meeting, though, actually the next two meetings would both be in the month of February. Second meeting was February 8th, where the Boston Celtics would win 126-91. And then they would follow that up on the 24th of February, just a few weeks later, and win 129-106. Again, I've referenced February a few times. Why is that significant for the Nets? No KD. He missed that entire month, guys. Looking at that first meeting of February 8th, their starting lineup was Bruce Brown, Patty Mills, Blake Griffin, Bembry, and Langston Edwards. And we were full health. And this is full steam ahead Celtics. February that's when we were starting, the roll was getting going. And then that 24th meeting, their team was Bruce Brown, James Johnson, Patty Mills, Andre Drummond, and Seth Curry. So getting a little better, but still, guys, we're supposed to win those games. That's obviously not the Brooklyn team that we're about to face in this upcoming series. So I think that the most accurate depiction of the head-to-head was that final meeting, and that was just last month, the 6th of March. The Celtics would win an absolute dogfight back and forth, 126-120. I believe it was either KD's first or second game back from injury, from that lengthy multiple-week injury, and he dropped 37 points in a head-to-head incredible superstar duel with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum would go on to have a 54-point performance that night. He was spectacular. Kyrie Irving had 19 points. Rob Williams, again, who we will get to in a moment, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks, just like that last year playoffs when he had like 9 blocks in a single game. His importance, especially in this series against this team, when it comes to blocks, cannot be understated. So, yes, the Celtics, again, they were 3-1 on the year. But if you look at the record when it came to KD, they were 1-1. Kyrie, 1-0. They only faced Kyrie once. So, but looking at some of the key players, guys, and what they accomplished this year, Jason Tatum, 76 games. He averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, near 4.5 assists. These are all career highs. This gentleman, to me, he was coming into the year like basically right in the top 15. And to me, he was a star that needed to take that step into superstardom. And I believe he did just that. He is now easily a top 10 player. He's somewhere for me in between maybe like 6 and 8-ish, 9 maybe. And I think he did it right before our very eyes in that month of March, where he was the 3-time player of the week, which I believe is only the second time in history that's been done, or maybe it was his age, something along those lines, but it was a historic accomplishment for him. He averaged 33 points, 7 rebounds, and 5+ assists while shooting 45% from 3. Picking up right where he left off, he's this month so far through like 5 or 6 games, he's averaging 26, 8, and 7, and still shooting near 40% from 3. He's been spectacular. He's a borderline, well, not borderline anything. He is an all-NBA player. I think 3rd straight perennial all-star, and he was a starter again. But the thing about it, it's going to get interesting when it comes to all-NBA. I don't know about Giannis and LeBron and how all that, he's been screwed just as last year when it comes to positions. But I would say first or second team all-NBA without question, and now a bona fide superstar. I can talk about my man all day. Jaylen Brown, 66 games, averaged just under 24 points, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. But he's on a run as well, guys. It's something like 11 straight games where he's had, or 10 out of the last 11 games, he scored 25 or more points. 9 out of those games, he shot 40% or better from 3. 7 of those games, he shot 50% or better from 3. And oh, by the way, there's like 5 or 6 30-point performances sprinkled in there. He's been awesome. He's been on a run where he's been averaging nearly 27, 6, and 6, this basically throughout that run, like the end of March into April. He got injured, I believe, the first I believe, literally March 1st against Atlanta. And that kind of skews his numbers for the month. But if you take that out, ever since then, he's just been rolling. Marcus Smart, 71 games, arguably Defensive Player of the Year, 1.7 steals, 12 points, 6 assists. But since returning January 23rd, he's averaging closer to 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 6.5 assists. 3 out of the last 4 months, he shot 40% or better from 3. In fact, he's having one of his best statistical shooting years of his career. He's been spectacular. He was another question mark coming into the year as far as, can he be a real point guard? I think he's answered that question with flying colors. Al Horford is another one. Spectacular. 69 games. This dude's nearly averaging a double-double at 10 points, 8+ rebounds, 3.5 assists. And people thought he was washed at 35 years old. I think that I need to do a separate video on him when it comes to like off season because of his contract and everything. But long story short, I think he's earned his contract moving forward for next year, and hopefully they can, bring him back on a team friendly after that, because he needs to get a ring and retire a Celtic. Grant Williams, he was another one, man. I was shipped Grant's ass out at the beginning of this year, and now I look foolish, just like a vast majority of us. 8 points, 4 rebounds, and I believe he's the 15th, top 15 when it comes to 3-point shooting at 41% on the year. It's insane. No Rob Williams. And actually, we'll get to him separately. But Derek White, got him in the trade deadline from the San Antonio Spurs. Since coming, he's averaging about 11 points, 3 and 3. Been struggling shooting. I think he's played about 26 games now. However, he's getting hot. 8 out of the last 10 games, he scored in double digits. And in fact, if you look at late March into April, he's averaging closer to about 13, 4 and 4 while shooting over 50% from 3. So let's hope he can stay hot. Last but not least, I'll talk about, Peyton Pritchard. He's another one who will be a key member of the rotation, and he's been excellent. He's definitely taken that step. He's another one, I think 10 out of the last 13. He scored in double digits, and his shooting has been absolutely insane since All-Star break. And finally, Daniel Tice. I mean, that trade for those trade deadline moves, every move that Brad Stevens, Executive of the Year, has made has just been, that Daniel Tice could, potentially been the difference in their season. Because if we had to start this series off with Enes Freedom as the only other guy out there with Al Horford, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because even though, and like I said, we'll get to Rob, forgive me for being, repetitive, but if he does return, you know what I mean? It's like, he still may not be, it might be a ramp up, but the fact that he's injured, it's like because of what Daniel Tice has done since Rob has gone down, it's been spectacular. He's averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds. He shot 11 total 3-pointers and made 5 of them. I can't speak highly enough about this man and what he has meant to this team since Rob has gone down. Him and Al Horford, that's what makes that Bruce Brown comment so damn silly. So, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But again, you'll see basically both of those gentlemen in the starting lineup. And thank God it's Tice over Enes Freedom. That's all I got to say. The free agent Enes Freedom. On to the Brooklyn side. I know that I mentioned them losing like 3, going 3-17 in that 20 stretch, but you also need to mention that ending the season, they won like 13 or 14 out of the last 18 games, something like that. They were hot ending the season. And that was because when KD returned in March, he's basically been averaging close to, 32 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists while shooting over 40% over that stretch. Kyrie Irving, another one, only played 29 total games, 55 total for KD. But Kyrie at the end of March got the great news. Full-time player again. Since then, he's averaging about 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 6+ assists while shooting. He's a 40, 50, 90 guy shooting, so I never need to really comment on his shooting. Seth Curry, 19 games for them. He's averaging 15 points on 47% shooting from 3 on 6.5 attempts. Wow, he's a Curry. Say no more. Andre Drummond, 24 games. He's a double-double, 12 points, 10+ rebounds. He's a career 14 and 14, 4-time rebounding champion. Patty Mills, 11 points, 40% 3-point shooter. Bruce Brown Jr., 40% 3-point shooter from Boston. Who else will we see? Goran Dragic, possibly see him. Through 16 games, he's actually playing about 25 minutes. He's averaging about 7 points, 5 assists, but he's shooting terrible, like under 24%. So we'll have to see. But one of the biggest headlines, and I know it's everywhere. It is the potential return of Rob Williams and Ben Simmons. Now, quickly, who are these guys? Obviously, Ben Simmons, 25 years old, perennial all-star, all-NBA, a steal champ. He's a career like 16, 8-8. Recently traded, actually, this trade deadline from Philly, where he played his entire career, to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden. Biggest trade, of recent, clearly of this year. Biggest trade by far, right? Now it's looking like he could be back. I've heard game 3, game 4. Who knows when it comes to that? Robert Williams, another guy, 24 years old, averaging 10 points, 10 rebounds, 2.2 blocks this season. First year as a starter, and is arguably, in my opinion, not only is he, all defensive player of the year, finalist, but most improved. I mean, I think that this man has finally gotten the keys. This is his first year. He's averaging nearly 30 minutes a game. Before, his high was like 18, and he has just been spectacular. As Draymond Green said, he's one of the best passing bigs in the game, especially when you take out Jokic, because, I mean, they don't get much better on the defensive end. The vertical spacing that he provides, that free safety role on the defensive end, Rob Williams has been spectacular. So just looking at both of these gentlemen and, what their impact means to the teams. Obviously, if either one of these teams had these guys back and they were healthy and you could guarantee their health, it's a game changer of all game changers for both of them. It's huge. It's huge. If you can add back a 16, 8-8 guy, people are so quick to say, and offensively, guys, he only averaged like 10 field goal attempts last year for Philly. That's the exact same amount as LaMarcus Aldridge for the Nets this year. So it's not like he's some high volume guy on the offensive end. If he's averaging them 10 points on the, 10 points, but still getting them 7 assists, 7 rebounds, and oh, by the way, is a runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year and is 6'10", 240 or whatever he is, they'll take that all day. Looking at Rob Williams, I mean, again, walking double-double and one of the best defenders in the NBA. He's an all-defense. Like I said, he was right up there as a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year prior to his injury. And just this hybrid, free safety role the Celtics use him in as like an off-ball, like off-center, it's just been spectacular. Him and Al Horford and what they're able to do together has just unlocked the keys. His switchability. I mean, there's so many highlights of him blocking. In fact, James Harden at the 3-point line, his playmaking. It's just everything Rob does. His pick and roll, like I said, that vertical spacing and that lob to Rob. I mean, it's just both of these guys are the real deal and would be humongous to their respective teams. Here's the problem. It is almost impossible to ask a player, unless it's like LeBron or one of those guys, to miss an entire year. He has not played in, I think, 10 going on 11 months, guys. His last game, I swear to God, probably caused PTSD issues. It was that last game, the layup one. That was his last time playing. And y'all are going to ask him to return in his first game back in the middle of what is probably going to be an absolute dogfight, intense playoff series against the number 1 defensive team in the NBA and the most physical team in the East. That's just such a tall task, man. This dude has not played, and it's not like he's at first it didn't seem like he wasn't playing because he didn't want to be in Philly, but now he gets traded, and I thought for a while he didn't want to immediately play because he was trying to avoid that Philly game. I think it was March 10th or 11th. But that has since come and gone. And then you find out he has like a herniated disc. So it's not even like you can use the health argument, because both of these guys are coming out banged up. But at least with Rob, he played a month ago. He just left. I mean, he has played a good amount of this season. However, he also did have, a meniscus tear and a surgery. Somebody let me know, did Ben Simmons have surgery on his back, or was it just like an epidural and things along those lines? But I think either one of these guys, I think you will see both of them. And the word around is that Rob actually is going to be back even sooner than later than they thought. Like, so the word was maybe, March 1st, I think game 5, game 6, like late series, if it got to that point. But now it's looking like I'm hearing maybe even game 2 or 3, like it could be even earlier. So again, I think if either one of these guys get brought in, you'll probably initially, it's a ramp up period. So you might see them play 10 minutes a game or 15 minutes a game that first game back, and just depending on how they respond and what is going on in that series. I mean, I think that both fan bases would agree that regardless, these two guys would be more valuable in that next round, right? Because look, either one of us win, we're probably looking at the defending champ Milwaukee Bucks in that second round. So I'm pretty sure that you all could use Ben Simmons to stick on Giannis's ass, and just, we could use Rob for the very same and just everything. So you get what I mean? So either one of these guys, both most likely we'll see in this opening round, probably in the same damn game. Imagine that. I wouldn't put the expectations all the way up, especially not in the beginning, especially for Ben. Rob actually might ramp up sooner, just based on him just being a part. I mean, Ben hasn't even been implemented in the game plan, the playbook. I mean, there's so much he has to learn, not just coming back from an injury in a year layoff. So I think Rob, could see, because I mean, an easy rebuttal is look at Jared Allen tonight. He's missed how many weeks, and he just played 35 minutes and had, scored double digits. So either way, guys, it's playoff time. It is official. Game's on tomorrow. Big game Sunday at 3:30. We will be doing a pregame show. We'll be doing a watch party, a post-game show. I mean, it's full steam ahead as far as playoff coverages go, especially with this. I mean, this is Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. This is the Brooklyn Nets and the Boston Celtics. I mean, please find me a more, just a more badass opening round matchup. I mean, I don't think there is one, guys. This is probably as controversial when it comes to the opinions and, the favorites. This is not, it's fair to say this is not a traditional 2 versus 7. If this team, the Nets, are healthy all year, I mean, they're probably, sitting right up, where we're at. Or, they were favorites coming into this year. They're probably a top 3 or 4 seed themselves. So it will be interesting. Again, my final predictions, I do believe our Boston Celtics win 5. If I had to say an actual game, I would say Celtics in 6. But again, thank you all so much for your time. These last several streams on Celtics Corner have been so much fun. We had the prediction show with Bree, and I mean, that was an absolute blast. And then we followed it up with Solo yesterday. Go check those out when you get a chance, guys. Like I said, excellent job. And then we just had my man Jack Bienvenu on, that the diehard Celtics fan, not too long ago. So we've been putting out some fire over there on Celtics Corner. So thank you all so much for the continued support, and it means more to us than you could ever know. But again, guys, thank you all so much for your time. Jags to Riches, James Peters, have an excellent weekend. Take care, guys.